Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're basically grabbing a coffee and sitting down for a really intimate look at Japan, but through a completely fresh, unexpected lens. We're going to explore the experiences of Åsa Ekström. She's a Swedish manga artist and travel blogger, and she shares exactly what it's like to live right smack in the middle of two very different cultures. We're going to treat this almost like a personal interview mixed with her travel journal, uncovering the hidden everyday magic of Japanese society completely through her eyes.
Right out of the gate, I want you to just listen to this beautiful observation she made. I think every Japanese product has a little kindness in it. Isn't that just a brilliant way to view the world? Through her unique perspective, Asa actually reveals the invisible, everyday wonders of Japanese design and culture. You know, the things that a local might just blindly unwrap and toss away without a second thought. She pauses to admire them. She sees intentionality. She sees care. And today, we're going to unpack exactly what she means by that little kindness and how it clashes, and sometimes perfectly harmonizes, with her own Swedish upbringing.
So let's jump into Section 1, a Swedish manga dream. To understand her unique lens and, how someone from Sweden ends up drawing Japanese manga about convenience store packaging, we really have to look at her origin story. Picture this. She's 13 years old, sitting in Sweden, and she catches the Japanese animation Sailor Moon on TV, and she's just completely mesmerized. Why? Because all the female characters were so incredibly strong, which is something she simply hadn't seen before in the cartoons she grew up with. Before discovering Japan, her vocabulary was pretty much limited to the stereotypes. She literally only knew words like geisha and samurai. But that childhood spark, it fueled her early visits. She traveled everywhere, soaking up the reality of the country as a travel blogger, and it totally motivated her to draw. Eventually, in 2011, she took the plunge, packed up her entire life, and moved to Japan to live right in the heart of her passion.
Which brings us nicely to Section 2, small kindnesses in daily life.
Once she was actually living there, Asa started documenting the friction, and honestly, the sheer joy of her daily discoveries, using a classic 4-frame manga format. Let's actually visualize how she processes the world through one of these vivid comics. Okay, panel 1. Asa walks into a Japanese convenience store and buys a race ball. She's hungry, she's excited. Panel 2. Total frustration sets in. She hates unwrapping them. The plastic is confusing, it takes time, it's a very un-Swedish design. But then, panel 3, the sudden magical discovery of the easy pull tab mechanism designed right into the packaging. And finally, panel 4, absolute overwhelming joy. Her face just lights up over the effortless convenience. It's a tiny moment, sure, but to a foreigner, this level of hyper-convenience is a genuine revelation.
And the thing is, she doesn't just stop at convenience stores. She zooms in on all these other tiny details too. Take the cup noodle stickers, for example. It's literally just a tiny piece of tape placed on the bottom of the container, put there solely to hold the lid down while your noodles cook. I mean, how thoughtful is that? Or Japanese department stores, where every single purchase is meticulously and beautifully wrapped by the staff with immense care. Even at a bank ATM, staff actually stand out front to politely bow to customers as they enter. It's this overarching culture of service that completely surrounds you at all times.
But, her Swedish sensibilities inevitably shined through. Because while she totally appreciates the generosity, she notes that, frankly, throwing away all that beautiful department store paper the second she gets home feels like an awful waste. And having someone bow to you just to use an ATM, well, as Asa points out with a bit of a smile, I don't think the Japanese need to go so far. It's this really gentle, kind of humorous clash of Swedish practicality meeting full-on Japanese hospitality.
All right, moving on to Section 3, rethinking work and leisure.
These everyday observations naturally lead us into this fascinating clash of macrocultural philosophies. It's really all about how we choose to spend our time. Let's look at the contrast here. On the Swedish side, work is basically viewed as an engine to fund your leisure. Vacations are absolutely sacred. Seriously, nobody works in the summer. Asa even mentions that if she calls a Swedish hotel in May to book a room for August, it's virtually impossible. They'll just tell her, we're booked, call back after the holidays. Now, flip that over to the Japanese perspective. If you ask someone there what the most important thing in life is, many will say my work. It is deeply, deeply tied to their identity, defining them well past their youth.
So the ultimate point of friction happened for Asa when she got into a cab and heard this exact quote from a 70-year-old Japanese taxi driver. He said, "I kept working after retirement because life without work is boring." Imagine hearing that as a Swedish person. In Sweden, the elderly simply do not work. Retirement is the ultimate prize you spend your entire life striving for.
This concept was just completely alien to her, and it totally shattered her preconceived notions about the whole purpose of having a career.
And that brings us to Section 4, the art of lagom. This highlights a really fundamental difference in how these two cultures view personal happiness, dedication, and the heavy weight of the opinions of others. Because while Asa deeply admires the incredibly hardworking and considerate nature of the Japanese people, I mean, these are the very people who invented that helpful cup noodle sticker, right? She does observe a downside. She notes that Japanese people tend to just go along with the group, worrying pretty heavily about what other people think of them. Contrast that with her Swedish upbringing, where people focus squarely on their own individual happiness. It is just not nearly as important to a Swede to care about how different they are from everyone else. So, to explain her worldview to her Japanese audience, she introduces this magnificent Swedish concept, lagom. It translates to just the right amount of happiness, not too much and not too little. It is the ultimate philosophy of moderation. And the thing is, Swedes use it for absolutely everything. The weather is lagom, your workload is lagom, your feelings, lagom. It's all about finding that perfect sweet spot where you are entirely content without tipping over into excess.
By applying lagom to her adopted home, she thoughtfully suggests a remedy. She says, "I think Japanese people sometimes work too hard and play too much. Lagom would be a good word for them. It's just such a gentle, loving critique from someone who truly adores the culture. She sees a society capable of immense dedication, absolutely, but one that could perhaps really benefit from stepping off the extremes and finding a little more balance." As we widen our perspective through Asa's wonderful comic lens, stepping out of our own cultural bubbles, we kind of have to look inward, don't we? Because the differences in how we unwrap a rice ball or how we decide to spend our retirement are really just reflections of our deepest values. So I want to leave you with this. Which mindset do you relate to more? Do you work merely to enjoy your leisure like the Swedes? Or do you, like that Japanese taxi driver, find life without work utterly boring? And honestly, no matter which side you fall on, can you find your own lagom? Think about that for a bit, and we'll see you in the next explainer.